High in the frozen Nordic mountains, 20-year-old hunter Kael, with his silver hair and glowing blue eyes, chased an unknown destiny amidst the swirling snowstorms. Suddenly, he discovered the massive white wolf Fenris, adorned with ice-blue glowing markings, trapped in a magical ethereal snare, draining his ancient power. With a single strike of his glowing sword, Kael shattered the magical bonds, marking the beginning of an unbreakable oath between the hunter and the beast. They set off together, the youth riding upon the wolf's broad back, crossing frozen valleys and jagged peaks with lightning speed. They reached the abandoned village of Aurora, where the silence was heavy with the first signs of a creeping ancient darkness. On the scorched wooden walls, Kael touched glowing red runes that whispered of the Shadow King awakening from 1,000-year slumber. Suddenly, a swarm of shadow birds with eyes like red embers attacked, tearing through the village sky in a chaotic whirlwind. Kael shouted with primal power, and a massive icy wave erupted from his sword, freezing the dark monsters mid-air into jagged statues. After the battle, beneath the smoking rubble, they found a small child trembling with fear, clutching a remnant of a forgotten era. The child revealed that the Shadow King had taken the village men to the Tower of Ash to transform them into a soulless army. They bid the child farewell and headed toward the tower, where the landscape shifted into a terrifying mix of boiling lava and eternal glaciers. At the Bridge of Sighs, they faced a massive stone guardian, a mountain-sized golem that blocked their path with a thunderous roar. Fenris leaped skillfully over the giant's head to distract it, while Kael slid beneath its massive stone legs, his sword glowing with intense blue light. Kael struck the guardian's weak point, causing the golem to crumble into 1,000 boulders, finally opening the path forward. They entered the Forest of Whispers, where the trees attempted to deceive Kael with the ghostly voices of his lost ancestors. Kael closed his eyes and trusted Fenris's heightened senses. The wolf's glowing markings illuminated the only true path out of the maze. At the forest's edge, they found an enchanted crystal spring. As they drank, their wounds healed and their strength returned tenfold. Suddenly, the sky turned pitch black and the first Shadow Knight appeared, descending from the clouds on a dragon made of living ash. An epic battle began. Kael launched glowing ice arrows from his bow, while Fenris created a shield of frost to block the dragon's fire. With one perfectly aimed arrow to the dragon's heart, the beast and its rider fell, clearing the final approach to the Tower of Ash. They reached the massive iron gates of the tower, where skeletal warriors cloaked in dark flames stood guard in a terrifying, frozen silence. With a powerful roar from Fenris, the gates were blasted open, and Kael charged through the enemy ranks like a blue hurricane of steel. They climbed the tower's spiral stairs, where every step echoed with the whispers of fallen warriors who had failed this journey before. In the deepest dungeon, Kael found the prisoners bound by shadow chains. He shattered their bonds with a single strike of his radiant blade. Kael led the newly freed men upward, while Fenris let out a howl that struck primal terror into the hearts of the Shadow Legion. Finally, they reached the summit's grand hall, finding the Shadow King seated upon a throne constructed from the bones of ancient dragons. The king laughed, casting a dark spell that separated Kael from his wolf, trapping them both in separate cages of suffocating black energy. Deep within the darkness, Kael realized their bond was spiritual. A thread of blue light connected his heart to Fenris across the void. Empowered by this connection, the shadow cages exploded into light, and Kael and Fenris reappeared, glowing with a divine golden aura. The final duel began. Kael's ice sword clashed against the king's shadow blade in a high-speed dance of light and darkness. Kael was wounded in the shoulder, his blood glowing blue, but he stood firm, drawing infinite strength from the protective stance of his wolf. Kael raised his sword and invoked the spirits of the north. The blade transformed into a pillar of pure, blinding solar light. Fenris leaped with incredible force, sinking his fangs into the king's arm to disrupt the dark sorcery being cast against his master. In that decisive moment, Kael plunged the sword of light into the Shadow King's heart, causing the entity to disintegrate into beams of dawn. As the tower began to collapse into ash, Kael jumped onto Fenris's back, and the wolf sprouted ethereal wings of light to fly them to safety. With the king's demise, the curse vanished. The snow began to melt, revealing vibrant green grass and spring flowers for the first time in centuries. They returned to the village as legendary heroes, celebrated by families who had finally been reunited under a peaceful sky. Though offered the crown of the kingdom, Kael refused, choosing instead to remain a free protector of the wild mountains. Kael built a modest wooden cabin on the highest peak, where he spent his days watching the horizon alongside his loyal companion, Fenris. Thus the legend ended, but on clear nights the howl of Fenris is still heard, reminding the world of the eternal bond between the hunter and the wolf.